Welcome to Inside Startup Investing, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with the co-founder and CEO of Wisdom.io, Cathy Minter. It's no secret that the U.S. population is aging, and more folks are finding themselves the caretakers of their parents, or those making arrangements for their parents to be looked after as they age. It's actually an unbelievably large challenge with innumerable unmet needs, both for caretakers and those aging alike. I have no doubt that most listening to this podcast have been directly or indirectly impacted by aging family members. Wisdom.io was founded with the goal of putting a powerful new tool in the toolkit of those folks managing aging parents and family members. For the millions of individuals aging in place, as they put it these days, how does one keep an eye on their family member while not being able to be there all the time, nor afford having someone to be there all the time? The answer, Wisdom.io. Think Life Alert, but built for the 21st century. A platform built to keep an eye on your aging family member in their home with AI-powered software that can detect falls and anomalies that may require more attention and care, and handle accessing that care in a far more automated fashion. What stood out to me about Wisdom.io is that, first off, the platform is being built by a founding team that intimately understands the problem they are solving as the assumed caretakers in their own families. Second, this team comes with tech backgrounds and are now taking those learnings to apply it to a category where they see a deep unmet need. And perhaps most importantly, while they are extremely early as a pre-revenue business, they clearly know what they are doing by focusing on early distribution channels just as much as the product. In fact, they already have 2 major partnerships in place with caretaker firms that can drive significant early revenue adoption in the next 12 months. And they have teamed up with Samsung to work with detection tools for outside of the home too. In short, this team is balancing product with actual distribution, something far too few pre-revenue founders think about. Lastly, I'll let Cathy dive in on the numbers for you, but it is actually alarming just how large a market the aging care tech space is. This is a company that has the potential to have a real impact on the quality of life for caretakers and the aging population alike. So, if this resonates with you, stay tuned and let's welcome Cathy onto the show. Cathy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris, for having me.
Absolutely. Well, look, I really appreciate the problem that you all are trying to help solve. I think it's an acute issue and challenge that many people face. And so I'm really excited to get into this conversation. So for those who don't know about you, give us a little bit of your background and how you came to found Wisdom.io.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And yeah, it is obviously when you look at sort of the current demographics, especially in the US, 11,000 people are turning 65 every day. There'll be 70 million older adults by 2030. And 90% of people have said, I'd just rather stay in my own home, right, and not move. So that's really the problem that we're kind of going after. I sort of fell into it like many founders. Came up through enterprise software and tech. So I worked at Oracle, the internet.com. I worked at SAP, and I've been at about 4 sort of venture-backed startups in a number of different areas like cloud computing, AI, IoT. I worked at Docker, which was sort of in the DevOps. And then I spent 5 years as the chief revenue officer at a digital asset blockchain company. So I've always kind of been on the bleeding edge of tech. And while I was at my last company, which was R3, it was a digital asset blockchain company, I was traveling globally. A lot of the action was going on sort of in the Middle East and Singapore. And during that time, my dad got into a car accident, got rushed to the hospital, got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and ended up passing away really quickly. And it was a total shock to my mom. They've been married for, almost 60 years, and they've lived in the same house for almost 55 of those 60 years. And I just couldn't I was like literally in a hotel in Abu Dhabi, like all the time change differences, trying to figure out how my mom was. She wouldn't pick up her phone. And I started looking on the market, like what's out there. And it was pretty shocking to see that nothing's like the innovation since the I've fallen, I can't get up days hasn't gotten much better with all of the advances in technology. So that was kind of, I said, something's got to be better than this. And found my co-founder on the technology side, and we quit our jobs and we started Wisdom in the beginning of 2024.
That's awesome. So let's get into exactly what your offering does and how it helps solve for this problem of allowing people to stay at home longer while providing a way to kind of stay in tune with what's going on with the individual and making sure they're safe.
Yeah, coming out of the gate, we really care about the dignity and privacy of the older adult. I feel like a lot of companies kind of come out with these solutions, but they sort of forget that there's a person in the middle of it, which is your mom, dad, or grandparent. So at its core, Wisdom really cares about the older adult and the needs and wants of the older adult. With that said, there's family members and other sort of care agencies that care about that. So we built an edge computing. So on the tech side, sort of for the techies out there, it's an edge computing application. So we actually have, what we do is we have a home hub, which is an NVIDIA GPU, so pretty strong processor, which houses sort of our main home hub. We set up a private network in the house with a mesh router, and we have ambient sensors. So we use a combination of radar, millimeter wave radar sensors, and computer vision. So sort of digital imaging to, at its core, detect problems without the need for a wearable. Because the problem we're solving is that the lanyards and the, other types of wearables aren't always worn when you need them. So they're often like hanging on a doorknob or in somebody's kitchen drawer versus on the older adult when they need them. So you kind of don't have to worry about Wisdom. It's on, and it does fall detection and other patterns. If your mom doesn't make it down, for breakfast at 10 and every day she gets up 10, it's an anomaly detection system. So it's AI machine learning, but we really have it locked in the house. The data's never going to the cloud. The only thing that goes is like the notifications. We have a nice mobile app, which is a really easy experience to kind of get notified. And then we're hooked up to a third party 24/7 medical alert emergency service. So you can escalate it through the app. You can do two-way audio through the sensors during an event, only with them. And it just makes sure that if something happens, you're not going to be laying there. You're going to get help, because every second and every minute matters, especially when you're over 65. Getting to the hospital, their chances of getting rehab or getting out of there back to your home that you love, which is what we're trying to keep people independent and happy in their homes. So that's how it works.
Help me understand it just from a technical perspective. So what if my house is 2 floors, or what if I spend a lot of time both in my kitchen and my bedroom and the living room, and they're all different rooms with walls up? How are you able to track across rooms? Do you need multiple devices? Is it a Wisdom device, or am I buying another device and then just using the software? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Today, we're leveraging off commercially available technology for the sensors, which is really nice because we can stay on the cutting edge, and we're not a manufacturer of the hardware. We really are a software company. But you do have to put a couple of devices in. It's not a hard install. The vision sensors cover a really big range. You usually put the radar devices in smaller rooms or bathrooms, and then we have some other motion or sensing devices to kind of correlate the data. So, the install would be 15 to 30 minutes. You can have a premium install, which kind of hides, it kind of is a little bit more polished, but most people kind of just need to get the system in. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. We're sort of working with different install mechanisms. Like we're early on right now, but you'd have to get a couple. You'd have to put a few in.
Got it. So for instance, if you had, do you work with all manufacturers? Like, could I have a Google Hub or an Apple device, one of those kind of like smart devices with a camera on it, and have those in a few rooms and use that as my device? Or is there only specific devices you can work with?
Yeah, the device needs to, through an API, put into Wisdom, because the data is coming into our AI and machine learning. With that said, though, we are kind of a sensor fusion, and our our vision is to have it be a smart home. So we have a partnership that we are working with Samsung. So we're going to be doing some more things with them. We're actually adding a watch for outside the house with them, which is going to be highlighted in the market soon, called Wisdom on the Go. But the concept is you could put other devices onto the Wisdom Hub, like a stove sensor, a refrigerator sensor, which for smart homes companies, when you're 30, you might not want or care about a smart fridge. But
Sure.
like when you're 80 and you're taking care of an older adult, you want to know, is there food eating? How many times has it been opened? Things like that. It becomes like a whole different kind of information. So, you couldn't, it wouldn't be as easy. So like plug your Alexa in and it gets discovered by Wisdom. But if we provision that speaker, which is not that hard to do, then it would be self-discovered by the Home Hub.
Now, in terms of bringing this to market, where are you in that process? And what is kind of your go-to-market strategy? Are you just selling this to individuals who are taking care of their older parents? Or do you see, working with nursing homes or things like that? How do you think about your go-to-market?
Yeah. And, part of it is we're doing a crowdfund right now, and we're doing pretty well on that. And we've raised a total of about $700K to get our product built and out to market. So we are a B2B2C. So we're not selling direct to consumer. That was one of the decisions we made fairly early on after, I think everyone thinks, oh, this is great, we'll just put it on the website. But our backgrounds, my background and some other folks are in enterprise sales. So we're going to be working through 3 different channels. So the first channel is your home care agencies. So I guess maybe I'll start by saying what we're not doing is we're not selling into any senior living. So that's only 3% of the population, and it's a very crowded and competitive market there. The big wide open, the opportunity is the 90% of people aging in place that haven't had a solution that's been affordable due to the plunging availability of the sensors and the AI. So we're hitting the market where we've taken advantage of the unit economics to build an affordable solution, and we're selling it through the home care agencies that have non-medical home care. So if someone goes out, activities for daily living, it's like, let me run an errand, help you with some meals, kind of organize some things. They might be there 5 hours a day, 3 days a week. What does the family do the other time? So Wisdom's like an extension to that home care offering. So we have 3 different home care companies that we're starting to pilot with next month. So that's kind of our initial go-to-market. We're also working with sort of hospital systems and home modification companies. I think grab bars, stair lifts, like there's an enormous amount of that happening when people are coming out of the, kind of going through the system and coming home. And the houses have to get ready. And at that moment that they're getting ready, Wisdom's a good complement. And then the last is working with 55 plus home, business development for the older adult communities. There's tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of homes being built, mostly across on the Southeast and Southwest for these communities, and how to be a value add that sort of you buy this and you're already sort of equipped for this kind of safety in your house.
In terms of kind of upfront costs and then the recurring costs of putting this in place, what does that look like?
So like any other software, there is a model where we have an installation fee. So we're still figuring that out, but it's affordable compared to our competitors. And then in that $60 to $80 a month, kind of more expensive than your button, but a whole lot less expensive than going to a $10,000 a month senior living or some of the alternatives of 24-hour care. We are looking at different business models. So, and this is not, we don't have this out yet, but value added, how to build our cost into sort of how our enterprise customers do business. That would be embedding it into the price of the home, or kind of like how, sort of how they deliver services, and then having them bake that into their rates. So more to come there.
Cool. No, and just thinking about the kind of B2B2C approach, so I understand what the sales process looks like, right? Because that's going to be a real driver of growth or not.
Yeah.
It sounds like you kind of partner with these large agencies that have lots of kind of at-home nurses or supporters who go into the home and help with elderly individuals or older folks. And then are they basically saying, hey, you should be, utilizing this service to the families that, are employing them and saying, this is something really great to have in place for when we're not here? Or are they saying, we're putting this in your home, we've already purchased this, don't even worry about it, this is part of what we offer?
It's a little bit of both. In some senses, it's like, look, we're partnered with this company to give you this added coverage when we're not here. And it helps us also have kind of visibility and data into how things are going. So for the home care agency, it's kind of dual purpose. It also, if you think about a churn event in our business or their business, a fall sends person to the emergency room, likely sends that person to a rehab, and then the hospital systems kind of have a methodology for then reassigning that person to home care. So there's no guarantee that person, first of all, isn't in their home for a month. It's a high likelihood they might never make it back home. Mm-hmm. So that's not good. And then if they do, they might go to a different home care agency. So you want to never have that person have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So getting the fall, kind of seeing the clues about what might be happening and what level of activities of daily living that person, the older adult should or shouldn't be doing, but doing it in a way that's like very private and their data is secure and it's with dignity, and how we work with them in terms of the, not monitoring. It's really an enabling technology. And that's important to us that we approach the market that way.
And just for folks who aren't as expert on kind of the at-home care market, can you give us a sense of just how large that space is specifically?
Sure. So there's 12 million homes every year that get a person that comes and takes care of someone for at least like an hour, let's say. And it's $100 billion business and growing. And there's a huge shortage of available hours and caregivers. So the population is getting bigger. There's not enough younger people, not enough people going into the caregiving space. So there's a shortage right now. But it's a giant market. And that's really just in the home care. That's not, other parts of skilled nursing and things like that. So it's a big market for lots of different players, with different kind of specializations. It's big.
Something that I was impressed by is the fact that you've kind of signed up these couple of home care companies that you're going to be working with and rolling out with. You're still so early. How do you ensure with what, with how your software is built, the fact that maybe you have not had a lot of time in market in terms of watching visuals of people in their homes, that your software is going to work, is going to detect these falls and anomalies, this, that, and the other thing? Like, how have you built that, and how do you know it's actually going to work in market?
Yeah, well, we've had a dozen test homes going for almost a year. Since we've been rolling out the different sensors and testing our specifically the fall detection accuracy. And it's like, soon as we hit sort of the mid 90s, we felt good enough to go to market. So it's working. You can test it. We have crash test dummies all over the place falling, and other my kids were doing some of that this summer at, we were different houses. So we have them up, and we also have some other test homes. So we've been testing them in these test home environments. Having been in software and done a lot of pilots, like, we're very low key in terms of saying, look, we're going to come out, we're going to take a couple families. Everyone is on board with the fact it's a test system. We're hand holding the process in terms of having a person assigned to collect feedback, understand the product needs, what part of the app do they like? Are there any features missing? So we're really going to be banging on the system really hard for the next probably 3 months during the pilot phase, just to make sure that we don't go out to market, as you said, with something that's not, fully tested. So it's a big, a big next step, but that's kind of how we're doing it now, just live environments.
Sounds like the market is more than large enough to support multiple competitors in the space. In terms of competitors that are already in market, one, if you could kind of mention a couple and what differentiates you compared to them.
Yeah. So probably our biggest competitor in home care is a company called Sensi.AI. They've been around for about 5 years. They received a good clip of venture capital, over $50 million. I know Insight Partners had invested in them. And, they've done a good job of educating a lot of the market about why a solution. They fundamentally are different in that they use audio technology. So they have audio pods that you plug in. So it's just a different, whether or not somebody wants that listening prompt. They do sort of their machine learning. I know they do have some more cloud-based services. So data, I believe, is being stored in the cloud there. I'm not 100%, but it's different than our sort of edge computing. So they're big. I know they've been very successful, and so that's good for all of us. There's other companies like SafelyYou, which people might have heard of. They've raised $110 million. They're mostly in kind of later stage memory care. They started there. I know they're moving more into sort of an aging in place or age, individual aging. Look, I feel as though, and whether this is going to work out for Wisdom or not, we brought in a clinical expert. We want to know, we're two middle-aged women started the company, right? Like, we've had our careers, we're caregivers, we have parents, like, we're women, we're the daughters that get called. If you get in the hearts and mind of the older adult, many of them being women, I don't feel as though the current market has really listened. I don't think they really understand psychologically what's happening, and the way they depict the marketing and the way they're being marketed to is not going over well. We've done focus groups and we've shown different companies marketing, and it's, everywhere from this should be a comedy sketch to this is completely not how I want to be depicted.
Yeah.
A frail. So look, we're a realist. Like, you get old, you can stop doing things, but that doesn't mean your heart and soul isn't in the same place to stay independent. So we're going to combine that empathy and really, really understanding, because it doesn't matter how much a business says something or the family or the son, you want the older adult to feel good about it. So
absolutely,
that's kind of how we're really trying to attack the market. And if we help families and solve a problem, we're going to be successful. Like, there's just a lot of families in need right now for this solution.
With the fundraising round you currently have going, if you complete that, it sounds like you're going to be pretty thoughtful in rolling out, not too quickly, which I think is wise. Does scale start to hit in like year 3, 4, 5? Is the first couple of years really just making sure everything works within, the first few partners? Or do you see this as something, within 12 to 18 months, you really want to start scaling up and say, okay, it works. We've been in market with a couple partners. Let's go.
Yeah, we'd like to scale up pretty quickly, but we're realists. You know what I mean? Like, we've been bootstrapped so far. We want to be profitable, like, first, but there are some of our business customers that are going to need scale in order to, and so we're, having been in my past, a lot of times you can work with your strategic customers to help you scale if you're smart about it and how you structure your enterprise deals. So that's one thing. And then we do have a lot of interest from new investors. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, we just want to get the round done, get to market, test the product, get our early customers like loving the product, giving us positive feedback, just like roll up our sleeves, nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
And work on our Samsung partnership is very important. So that's we've been spending time with that. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
No, I think that's terrific. And with something like this, again, making sure it works right and you can provide the level of service you want is really important, because otherwise you'll never make it.
Right.
One other piece here, let's just dive a little more on the Samsung partnership. What does that look like? What does that actually entail?
Sure. So we've been working with them for about 6 months. We explored a number of different sort of pilots, like how can we use Samsung to extend Wisdom's capability? And the first thing we landed on, even though we have visions for like the smart home, is in our focus groups, a lot of people said, well, what happens when I leave the house? Like, I love Wisdom for the house because I like to take my watch off or take my, I don't even wear the lanyard, right? And The other big component is around fall risk and how to capture data, like relevant data that could be helping people to actually never fall, like to prevent the falls. So the Samsung partnership is doing both of those. So we're using their Galaxy 7 watch. We've built a custom interface with them, with their team. We have a couple engineers that are working with us, and it's designed for older adult, just like less features. We've dumbed, like, your Samsung watch does a lot, right? We've sort of stripped away some of the biomarkers. Not that they're not there, but what do we need? So it does geofencing, fall detection. Like if you go to the store, you go for a walk, you're gardening, you put your watch on. The other thing it does is measure some of the pace and gait analysis for, like, that is actually a vital sign, how fast you walk. So you can kind of correlate that. And we've brought in like a clinical expert that does a lot of evidence-based research. So it's not like Dawn and I like coming up with like, oh, what you should be doing. It's like actually like working on this translates into evidence-based recommendations for your capabilities, for your activities of daily living, and then also moving into sort of exercise and fitness and wellness to kind of go with what we want, which is helping people stay independent, helping them be healthier while you're also protecting them. So
I love that.
We're getting there on the watch. Again, it's an MVP right now, but it's pretty cool. And the Samsung team's been like awesome to work with, like amazing. It's an enormous market of 70 million people. A tiny percent of the market is a huge company for Wisdom. We hit the market at a time as an investor where we've taken advantage of so much horsepower, machine learning models, AI models, equipment, sensor technology that has been at a unit economics unseen for our competitors that started either pre-COVID or COVID. So we're out to market in less than 2 years with less than $1 million with what I think our competitors have spent $30, $50, $100 million building. So as an investment, who's going to, return the bigger investment would be a company like Wisdom. We're two experienced founders. I've been 4 startups. Both Dawn and I have, like, I hate to say it, like 60 years of corporate. She was on Wall Street building trade. Like, we're running a good lean business. We know what we're doing. We're not like, and we're also connected to the problem in terms of being middle-aged women having to just deal with this every day. So yeah, I think we're in it. This is it. There's no plan B for us. We want to take this to the end. We don't want to go back to corporate America. So we're being very pragmatic. We're attracting great advisors, really great. We have the ex-CEO of Honeywell now on our advisory board. We've got Wall Street people. We have doctors. We've got, other clinical people. So we're mixing that up. So we're getting good advice.
If you like what you heard on the show today, you can check out why Wisdom.io received a 3.2 out of 5 on our proprietary rating scale at Kingscrowd.com. You can also invest on Issuance Express until December 31st, 2025. And as always, if you liked what you heard on the show today, please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen so more folks like you can find us.